Well, thank you, Bishop. And Philadelphia is a great city, but we're glad you came to Maryland. Thank you, Bishop, and thank you for your leadership, and to all of the other faith leaders who are here today. And to all of you, are there any Marylanders in the house? And we're also working on statehood for people who live in the District of Columbia so they can have self-determination. So it's really important that all of you are here and that you spread the message, and that gatherings like this are going to be taking place over the next 60 hours all over the country. And it's important because we need to get the word out as to what happened on Capitol Hill just a short time ago. Now, if you go back 60 years, almost 60 years, something really good happened on Capitol Hill. And that was that Congress passed legislation to create Medicare and Medicaid. That was a very important compact with the American people. It was a promise that we as a government, American government, we the people, all of us, would work to make sure that every American had access to quality, affordable health care. And Medicaid was a very important part of that promise. And that, of course, passed right there under that dome almost 60 years ago. But just a very short time ago, weeks ago, we saw a very bad thing for the American people happen under that same Capitol dome. And that was the passage of what President Trump likes to call the big, beautiful bill. But I think all of you know it was only beautiful if you were a billionaire. For everybody else, this was a betrayal. It was a betrayal because it walked back a big part of the promise that was made when Congress passed Medicaid and created Medicare and Medicaid 60 years ago. And so all of us need to do our part to explain to the American people what happened here so that we can hold elected officials accountable for their vote, because accountability is important in a democracy. Also because this is the beginning of the road, accountability is the beginning of the road to repairing the damage that was done. And getting that story out is important because it harmed millions of Americans. About $1 trillion was cut from Medicaid. That's $1 trillion that was going to help people with disabilities, going to help people in nursing homes, going to help people struggling with substance use challenges, going to help Americans in need, because that was the compact that we made. And so when you take $1 trillion out of that important healthcare support network to give a tax cut to billionaires, people need to know about what happened. Now, I think a lot of folks who voted for that betrayal of a bill would like everybody to forget. Are we going to let them forget? Hell no, we're not going to let them forget. They'd like us to be quiet and go away. Are we going to be quiet? And they even said, and this was said by the former Republican leader, that people are just going to get over it. Are we going to get over it? We're not going to get over it. And the reason it's important that we let people know what happened is because this was not an accident. People knew what they were doing. And when that cast was vote, people knew who they were helping, the billionaires, and they knew who they were hurting. Millions of Americans who need Medicaid. And the reason I know it is because I heard from my constituents, and I know that my Republican colleagues heard from all their constituents. I'm just going to read 2 of the hundreds of messages I got from my fellow Marylanders. Frank from Cecil County wrote, in capital letters, please, please do not pass the budget, referring to the so-called big beautiful bill. He said, I have an autistic son who can only work part-time at a grocery store. He is on Medicaid, and if he loses his insurance, we will not be able to cover him. Please do not let this happen. Please. 5 exclamation points. That was Frank from Cecil County. Mary from Carroll County wrote this message to me. Quote, my 50-year-old son is battling colon cancer and has to undergo chemotherapy every 2 weeks. He has been sick since 2019 and lost his business and cannot work. He lost everything and is living with me and on Medicaid. The chemo is enabling him to have 1 good week out of 2. If they take his Medicaid away, it will be a death sentence. That is what Mary wrote to me. And that is the bottom line of what happened. $1 trillion is a lot of money, but it's hard to understand the impact it will have, the harm it will do until you read these stories. People will die prematurely because of what happened on Capitol Hill just a few weeks ago. And so that's why it's very important that we tell this story to the American people. Because just like I received these messages crying out to stop this bill from my constituents, I know every single one of the 100 senators here in the United States Capitol got messages like that from their states. And we know that a big number of them ignored those messages. They closed their eyes, they closed their ears, they shut down their hearts, and they voted for billionaires over health care for millions of Americans. It is shameful, and that is why we do need to tell this story. Because in democracies, as we said, people need to be held accountable, and accountability serves another purpose. It does serve the purpose of making sure that we get back on the track to restoring the promise of 60 years ago and repealing the broken promise of just a few weeks ago. So thank all of you for sending a message loudly and clearly that we're not going away, we're not going to be silent, and we're not just going to forget about it. We're not just going to leave this alone. We're going to make sure the American people know what happened so it doesn't happen again. Thank you for all being part of this.